Good afternoon, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation for September 11th, 2024. My name is Steve Brandt, and I serve as President of the BET. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum. I will note that Commissioner Priest-Stinson had a medical issue that is keeping her from attending today.
Commissioner Fry.
Here.
Abene.
Here.
Payne.
Present.
Chugtai.
Present.
President Brandt.
Here.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. I will now offer an acknowledgement that we meet today on Dakota land. We will now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Board members, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Second. Thank you. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next is the acceptance of minutes from the August 21st, 2024 meeting. May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Minutes are accepted as presented. Item 4 on our agenda today is a scheduled public hearing to receive public comments on the property tax levies proposed in the mayor's 2025 recommended budget. I will now open the public hearing. The clerk informs me that we have, I believe, 4 people signed up to testify. If there's anybody else here who would like to testify, please see the clerk at my extreme right over on the side. Otherwise, we will begin. Each of you will be allowed up to 2 minutes to speak and offer your comments. Please state your name for the record when you come up to speak. And our first speaker is Fred Mosel from the North Loop neighborhood. Mr. Mosel, welcome.
Hi, folks. My name is Fred Mosel. I live in the North Loop. I've been here 18 years. First off, thank you all for your service. You're doing a great job. But the police are getting the pay raise, and a little birdie told me to come down here to mention something that's going on from my feelings. I want to keep the morale up in the police department because they need to be paid, but I'm really starting to see that if the cost of office supplies like paper clips, staples, and pencils go up, are we going to get a tax increase because of that? Every year, I get 13 pieces of mail in the snail mail. It's like a sequoia stuffed in a box. Is anyone looking at trying to control some of these administrative costs? We have to be smart. And these items, and I don't want to get concrete shoes, but these sports stadiums and these teams are getting excellent deals. at the expense of the taxpayers, and the rest of the country's catching on and they're saying no. We can't keep raising these costs onto the taxpayers or they're going to leave. It's not sustainable. All you folks are highly educated, you have experience and very smart people, but someone needs to go through from the top down and start taking a look at these costs and where all the money's going. Thank you, folks. Thanks for your service.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Tate. Welcome, Coach, from
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor.
Ward 2.
I come on behalf of community, the city of Minneapolis, really. Even though I'm a North Sider, born and raised, volunteer coach for over 40 years, and I continue to volunteer for my community, as always, as many of you know. I come in support of getting the park the $2 million and what it needs to me in my community and the whole city. I would say this, cutting $2 million out of the budget for the park to continue to gather data, deliver the program that our youth really need. And I want to start from a fundamental process because, again, I know 8-year-olds are already driving, okay? So that means I got to go a little bit younger with my program, and what I do is to build some youth development programming inside our Minneapolis parks, inside our Minneapolis public schools, and inside our Minnesota state government, or this problem is not going to go away. I heard y'all talk about what you talked about today about homeless encampments. Can you imagine if we don't start developing our youth today, how many more people will be there and how many more families will be there? I speak to you as a coach, okay? I'm not here to ask for anything other than to take care of the children. I know they mean so much to you. They mean so much to me. You all have them, soon to have them, may want to have more. I don't know. But I want to say this. Let's all come together, figure out a way to not cut the jobs, but figure out a way to put policy in place to hold the people accountable to the money that we're given. And we'll all be happy ever after. And again, you're talking to somebody that knows it works. Most of y'all know I know it works. And let's just work together. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Meg Forney from District 4 Park Board Chair.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak. I suspect that everybody in this room will understand my words. We are not going back. Our commitment to youth development is strong. My staff over here has dedicated their time to make sure that the budget that's before you is so efficient, so bare bones and everything. And the majority of it, I can't give you percentages, whatever, is about wages, which means staffing for our youth centers. And as the coach said, and that's another wonderful word these days, the coach here is the truth teller. He really is, as we know our governor is. But when we talk about rec centers, we're talking about, are they going to be open for these children? Our wading pools, skates, I mean, so many things that are so reliant upon the staffing. That is what is in our budget. And I really, really strongly hope that you can support the budget that we're putting forward to you, because it means so much. And like I say, we're not going back. Thank you.
Thank you, President Forney. Our last signed up speaker, and if there's anybody who has come in late, you may still sign up with the clerk, is Brad Johnson from Ward 3. Welcome, Mr. Johnston. Johnston. And nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, how are you? I'm a new resident of the city of Minneapolis and just getting to follow a little bit the budget process. And I see the 8% increase and I say, well, gosh, that's high. 9% is higher. In fact, at that rate, your taxes will double in less than 7 years. So it's aggressive, I think, by anybody's measurement. And I point that as I've been trying to pay attention, what I haven't heard discussion on the council or in committee is the problem with the commercial office space in the central core of Minneapolis. I've heard it mentioned, but I think it's a much more significant problem than publicly has been discussed. And I'm just asking you to think about that and prepare about that. And maybe that's more about program and budget than it is about this committee. But the LaSalle building, the LaSalle Plaza building, which you're all well aware of, probably at one point was valued at $200 million, sold for $40 million. And then it isn't out of the water yet. So it may not be generating a lot of additional revenue. So I hope that you do, as you make this shift of the burden from commercial to residential, you realize that that accelerated rate of 8 and 9% is very high, and that you really need to address this loss of revenue in some other ways, which might be less experiments, more sound planning and spending. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. It's the last speaker we have signed up to speak. Is there anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to read one comment into the record. It's from a woman named Liz Hannon in, I believe, Ward 13. Yes, Ward 13. Subject is 8.1% property tax levy. My comment is that the mayor and city council need to do more to find alternate funds. Adding more to property taxes is such a burden for property owners. It is not manageable for our budget and for many residents. Our family income is not increasing, and with the cost of basic necessities going up, we cannot afford this increase of property taxes. Please be more creative and resourceful. If you want specific ideas, please let me know. So I'll close the public hearing with nobody else coming forward to sign up and speak. Thanks to all of you who made public comment today, and I'll direct the clerk to receive and file your comments. I also want to note that we have one more agenda item, and then we'll be diving into both the city budget presentation and the park board budget presentation. I encourage people to stay here and think about it, hear the discussion, understand some of the factors that are at play here. At our next meeting on September 18th, the board will take action to fix the maximum certified tax levies for property taxes payable in 2024. So that's where the rubber meets the road. That meeting will be held in this room at our regular time, which is 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock on September 18th, a week from today. Item 5 is a presentation from ABDO regarding revisions to the capital audit report they presented to the board last year. Is David Mueller from ABDO present? Okay, I believe I suggested he show up about 5:30, not knowing how long the public hearing would go. So let's defer that item and move on to the start of the let's see, the mayor's recommended budget is going to take quite a bit of time, as will the park board.
President Brandt, if I could suggest you had that staffing discussion that might only take 10
Yes.
minutes or so?
Yes, and I was considering that. There's a couple items that are on the agenda, at the tail end of our agenda. One, let's see, where is my agenda? Thank you. First of all, I want to maybe move to item 9, which is updates. I wanted to let the board know that the 3 people who serve on the search committee, along with the 2 ex officio members, met, I believe it was last week, and agreed finally on a JAQ for the position. So that allows HR to go through its process and they are proceeding, and I'm hoping that before too long, we'll actually be able to get this position advertised. Also wanted to mention that, well, let's go back to the staffing discussion, and I think we might want to think about deferring that today, because it was an item that was suggested by Commissioner Priest Stinson, who could not be here. The gist of it is she wants to have a discussion and thinks it might be appropriate, and I think it's a good thing for the board to discuss whether the existing language in our bylaws regarding direction to staff is appropriate now that we are returning to a staffer who will either be part-time or full-time for the board. And I would suggest, if it's okay with the board, that we put that off until Commissioner Priest Stinson can be here. Does that make sense? Okay, so we'll defer that. And I don't know if we see Mr. Mueller yet. Okay, well then I guess what we will do is, I'm assuming that the Park Board presentation will be somewhat shorter than that brought forward by the City Finance Department. So why don't we dive into that, if that's amenable to the Park Board representatives who are here today.
All right, good evening, President Brandt and board members. I'm here this evening to present the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board's 2025 maximum property tax levy request, as well as a review of our general fund 2025 to 2029 financial projections. On August 7th, 2024, the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Park Board Commissioners, adopted Resolution 2024-137 to formally request the Board of Estimate and Taxation set the MPRB 2025 maximum tax levy at $90,978,000. The chart before you details the breakout of this request.
Excuse me, Ms. Wiseman. Could you give your name and title for the record, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I am Julie Wiseman. I am the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board Finance Director. I apologize for forgetting to do that in the beginning. So as you see on this chart, the first line of 86.2 million is what the city would consider our current service level as recommended in the city's financial projections. The items that are over and above that increase, the largest one being our provision for wage and fringe adjustments. So it is our staffing that we have been referring to. It includes annual wage increases, reclassifications, market adjustments, health insurance, changes in workers' compensation, and para increases for part-time employees. I am showing this as a separate total because we're aware that the City Council, by resolution, passed support for a property tax levy increase that would support our union negotiated contracts and employees of the Park Board. So that alone, if that was the only thing that was funded, would be an 8.09% increase, or a 1.42% of the overall city tax. The other items that the Park Board is requesting that's over and above the current service level is a provision for inflation. So as you know, the city and the park board spending power has been decreased over the last several years with the high amount of inflation and our budgets not keeping pace with that. So this is a relative small increase of 4.5%. So 2% is built into our current service level, so this represents an extra 2.5%. And we would request to slowly rebuild our spending power over the next 5 years. The next item is Graco Park. We have Graco Park that is coming online in 2025, and this would provide the maintenance and programming of this site, and it's within an equity area of our city that lacks access to parks and access to the river in this case. The next item is a citywide needs-based free and reduced cost. So we currently offer free youth programming at 17 sites. We would like to expand that citywide, and we are asking to reduce our charges for fees in our recreation centers and replace that with a small increase to property taxes. And then we have a request for a capital and rehabilitation project manager and a small amount for security and camera replacement. So our total request of almost 91 million, 10.07%, would equate to about a 1.76% property tax levy request in 2025. For the first time, the MPRB will be adopting a 2-year budget that will include the adoption of the 2025 annual budget and 2026 plan. This chart reflects the estimated plan MPRB 2026 maximum property tax levy increase. And again, the major increase over current service level are the provisions for wage adjustments. With that funded only, it would be a 5.43% increase. And then in 2026, Upper Harbor Terminal will come online, and the maintenance and activation of that site is being requested in 2026, as well as the provision for inflation of other operating, our needs-based free and reduced cost programming strategy, and then the capital and rehab project manager, one position in 2026. Slide 3 is the general fund 2025 to 2029 projections. The MPRB is heavily reliant on property taxes for our general fund operations. In 2024, our adopted budget, 79% of the general fund revenue is from property taxes, that one funding source. You'll see in 25 and 26, we have a youth investment one-time to be determined. That is created by ARPA is ending in 2024, but our youth investment property tax increases do not meet the 2.6 million until 2027. So that leaves a gap in 2025 and a smaller one in 2026 that we will need to fill with one-time funding. Expenditures, wages, and fringe are 72% of the budget. And on this chart, the wages and fringe, part-time, full-time, health insurance, and other expenditures also includes the system equity investments, so Graco Park and Upper Harbor Terminal. So as our city changes, we have been adding new parks in areas where residential growth has been encountered, residential growth in areas where there were none, when we're talking about the commercial industrial changeover to residential. This is meeting those needs of those new residents in those areas of the city. It is also correcting historic inequities in our city parks through investments in parks in the areas of our city that have lacked access to parks and water bodies. These requests operationalize these sites at the current service level that is provided at existing parks within our system. Without these investments, level of service will be impacted and reductions felt throughout the park system. To ensure our FTE growth was not out of line or excessive, I did review the City Public Works Department FTE growth, and the MPRB requests are reasonable in comparison. This shows the professional staff for capital and rehab, as well as the security systems and cameras. So 2 years ago, we started building up a rehab fund for our security and cameras. Our goal is to reach $250,000 that's annually available to replace and fix our systems. And 25 and 26 are the last 2 years of that, and we will be at the $250,000 in 2026. We requested 3 professional staff for our capital and rehabilitation program. We requested for the first time, I believe, in 2023. No positions were funded in 23. In 2024, one of the positions was funded. And so with this request, we are asking for 1 position in 2025 and 1 position in 2026. The mayor's recommended levy projections for the park board are shown here, where we are shown at 7% in 2025, 2.6% in 2026, and 3.3% in 2027. And I'm going to kind of highlight those 3 years because those are 3 years where we have some significant investments coming online. So the difference between the mayor's recommended budget recommendation for property taxes for the park board is the bottom line of this chart, and the park board's estimated tax levy need is the blue line or the top line of the chart. So you can see that in 2025, there's a small gap. In 2026, it grows larger, and by 2027, it's approximately $10 million. Showing this on my financial projection spreadsheet, it shows $2.5 million gap in 2025, a $4.4 million gap in 2026, and a $3.1 million gap in 2027. So just to give you a sense of the magnitude of these types of gaps for the Park Board General Fund Operating Fund, the $10 million, youth investment is $2.6 million. So that's the magnitude of the gap that we're reflecting in 2025. For those of you that were around when the 20-year neighborhood park plan was implemented, there was a $3 million increase to our property taxes that was used to improve our service levels like mowing, pruning, plumbing, all of those maintenance, general maintenance and repair. That has grown to about $4 million in the 2024 budget because it is property taxes. It goes up as the property tax levy request goes up. But you will see that the 2026 $4.4 million gap is pretty similar to our NPP 20 investment. We aren't showing, so other things that are at risk are the free and reduced cost programming. And then, of course, in the city's recommended budget for 25 and 26, they are showing $300,000 for our Graco and Upper Harbor Terminal investment in 2026, when we have requested $1.5 million. So potential service reductions. It includes all of those NPP 20 service levels that we talked about. So fewer trees planted, mowing, athletic field maintenance, trash pickup, or snow removal. Free and reduced cost youth programming. If these types of cuts remain, we would be at risk of eliminating the 17 free sites that we currently have, and we will not be expanding to a citywide program. There is a potential for fewer amenities being available to the public, which could mean closing of rec centers or changes to the hours that the rec centers are available, a reduction in the number of ice rinks, the reduction of the number of wading pools that are able to be open, and potentially the closure of beaches, and some beaches could be converted back to natural landscape. So the last slide I'm going to show, as you consider the maximum property tax levy requests for the park board, these are kind of the different percentages. The mayor's recommended budget of 7.01% equates to a 1.23% for total citywide tax. The 8.09% again funds all of the staffing costs, the employee costs, and that would be a 1.42% increase or a 0.19 difference from the 7%. And then the full 10.07% that would fund the staffing plus the additional items that the park board is requesting would be a 1.76% increase or 0.54 total citywide tax above the 7% that's recommended by the mayor. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
I wondered if I could suggest to people that we put a pause on this presentation unless, I'm sure there will be people who have questions today, but I see that our friends from ABDO have arrived to present their capital audit revisions, and Julie, if you could stick around, then we could get back to you if that's okay. So they'll want to keep their meter running. So, folks from ABDO, please come up. It's a return to agenda item number 5. It's a presentation from ABDO regarding revisions to the capital audit report they presented to the board last year. And welcome David Mueller and Jean. And would you please give your names and titles?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. I'm Jean McGann. I'm partner at ABDO. And with me this evening is David Mueller, and he is a senior associate with ABDO Financial Solutions. Thank you for accommodating us this evening. We're happy to present the update to the capital audit. And David will be presenting the revisions this evening. And we're just pulling the presentation up now, and we will share this information with you.
President Brandt, members of the board, pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for fitting us into your busy schedule. Oh, yes, sorry. So we're here to prevent the few changes caused by the revisions to the capital audit previously presented. I believe it was October of 2023. We've worked through those and we're ready to present those revisions to the board today. We've already introduced yourself. Just a little bit more about me. I'm a senior associate at Abdo Financial Solutions. I've been with the company for about 1.5 years now and spent a little over 7 years in the public sector before moving over to Abdo. So we have a pretty brief agenda today for you. We're going to provide a recap of the original capital audit. We're going to review those park board capital assets, those revisions that we added from the MPRB dashboard. And then we're just going to go over the overall updates that those caused to those actual capital asset metrics that were previously provided, including age to life of the asset and also number of projects and spending as well. So just some general information about the original audit. We used information as of December 31st of 2022, and that includes the 5 prior years, so 2018 through 2022. All income and population statistics were gathered from the American Community Survey using the 5-year estimate tables, and then any property information were obtained from Hennepin County Auditor's Office and also assistance from the Minneapolis Assessor's Office as well for some of that information. I want to recap some of the high-level items from the previous presentation that don't relate to the actual capital assets, but I thought they'd be good information for you to have as we move through these revisions. So on top of the capital asset metrics, we also had some income, population, and poverty or property metrics as well. Looking at those income metrics, typically we saw wards 2, 5, and 6 were typically had the lowest income, while Ward 4 has actually seen a substantial increase, but still kind of remains on that below average end. Population, based upon the statistics gathered, all populations are for each ward are within 2.5% of the overall population. And Ward 3 has seen the greatest increase over the past 5 years, and Ward 5 has seen the greatest decrease as well. Wards 2, 5, and 6 are consistent with the income, with having the highest unemployment rate and percent of population below poverty. And Ward 3 has seen the greatest decrease in percent of population below poverty. Some of the property statistics, Ward 7 has the highest average home value, and Wards 4 and 5 have the lowest average home value. Right on track, Ward 4 and 5 actually have seen the most tax forfeitures as well. And Ward 1 and 3 have the most commercial industrial, while 3 and 6 have the highest percentage of commercial industrial. So now we're going to move into the actual revisions, and we're going to break this into 2 sections. The first is we're going to be looking at the age versus the life based upon a percentage of the capital assets. So as you can see here, the overall, with the revisions to the park capital assets, the majority of them saw a decrease in the percentage of useful life to the actual age, or age to the actual useful life of the asset. Prior to the revisions, we were at about 40% of the life of the asset or the age of the asset to the life of the asset. And with the revisions, it actually fell down to 25%. And that's a total accumulated average across the 13 wards. So here you'll see this is going to be the overall total of capital assets, age versus life. So this is taking into account all different types of assets, not just parks. These are all of the assets identified as infrastructure throughout the city and placed into the wards. So you'll see here that the majority of these items did not see very significant changes with the revisions. The largest change was due in Ward 9, which was about 8% decrease in the age versus the life of the capital asset. And then overall, we only saw a decrease of about 3% when we added in those new revisions. A couple things to note. So for any of the new revisions that were added from the parks dashboard, we used the capital asset policy provided by the city and assumed a lifespan of 20 years for those assets. And I think based upon the public improvement portion of that capital asset policy, you could do anywhere between 20 and 40 years. So I just took the lowest, and knowing that that would kind of bring those percentages a little bit higher, kind of worst case scenario for you to look at there. But overall, if we're looking at the age of the capital assets, we're between about 74% and 85% of the useful life of those assets. So next, we're going to actually look at the amount of projects and funds spent just for the parks to start, and then we'll group it all together with the overall city aspect. I'll just take you a minute. There's a lot of data here. If you want to take a look at the screen, I'll give you maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds to just kind of digest what's on the screen. I know it's a lot of data, and it's not all here, so we'll have to go to the second page as well. So there's a couple numbers in the revised table that I want to draw your attention to. The first are going to be wards 3 through 5. The amount of projects are typically significantly higher compared to the other wards, at least on this page. We'll get to the wards 7 through 13 here on the next slide. I just want a couple numbers here to draw your attention to. And then also the spending in Ward 3 of that $36 million is going to be a significant figure that we're going to look at. And then also Ward 5 as well with that $25 million. All right, so now here we have wards 7 through 13. So if you want to take a second to digest all of these figures as well. And a couple of the outliers on this for wards 7 through 13 that I want to call your attention to are going to be wards 7 and 12, kind of on that higher end for the amount of projects completed as well. But as you look at the amount of funds spent for these wards 7 through 13, these figures are significantly lower than what we saw in those wards 3 and 5. So wards 3, again, had that $36 million of allocated spending, which is $10 million higher than the next closest ward, which was 5 at $25 million. And then again here, so this is going to be all of the types of assets throughout the entire city and not just parks. So I'll give you a moment here to take a look at that.
Excuse me, we have a question. Commissioner Payne?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to, this is a kind of overall question.
Sure.
What was the general source of the discrepancy driving the need for this revised presentation? And then what flagged that discrepancy?
And the discrepancy was actually brought to our attention by Julie Wiseman, the Park Finance Director. She identified kind of the discrepancy of what they had been spending versus what we had originally presented. And that was due to the fact that we used the actual city capital note for our original presentation. We were unaware of the Parks Board's reporting type, which are considered a discretionary reporting entity, which means they have separate or different reporting requirements. So after that was identified, and that's kind of the reason for us going through identifying those discrepancies, getting those added into our data, and then providing these revisions to the board today.
So then would it be accurate to say that there was robust reporting, it just wasn't in your direct source because you were relying on just a city source and hadn't realized that Park Board source was there?
I would say that's accurate, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And additionally, during the review of that park board information, we identified some information that needed to be corrected. So I believe Julie and her staff is taking care of that as well. So the information we were provided was actually not completely from the dashboard. We had reached out and got clarification on all of those issues. So what we're presenting today may or may not match depending on when those updates are completed, but we are using the most accurate source of data based upon the information we were now provided by the parks as well.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful.
You're welcome. All right, I think we had enough time to digest this slide here. So a couple things here that I want to call your attention to is based upon the number of projects completed here in the revised section. 71 projects for Ward 3 with $300 million of allocated spending to projects within that ward. And then also again, Ward 5 with that 83 total projects. Spending is significantly lower, but we kind of see the correlation between the parks data, amount of projects, dollars spent. It's kind of correlating between what the parks are spending and also what the city is spending on different types of infrastructure throughout the city as well. And then I do want to note that when identifying from the capital note, from 2018 to just 2022, there were about 100 assets that were unable to be identified. And that's typically due to more general projects that were completed in multiple areas, such as repaving, different projects like that that could be done in multiple areas. I think there were some ADA ramps completed at government buildings, other buildings, park sites, things like that, that just were kind of general projects, and we can compile that accurately into our data. And then lastly, we have overall spending between Wards 7 and 13. I'll let you review this information for a moment here. And then the only number I want to really call your attention to under the revised table, Ward 7, again, we saw the correlation with the parks amount of projects, dollars spent. We had a total of 129 projects for $235 million total for allocated funds in Ward 7, which is 129 projects is nearly twice as much as the next closest ward. And then if that is all the information I have for you today, and I'll open it up for questions.
We're somewhat handicapped today by the fact that Commissioner Priest-Stinson, who initiated this look, is unable to attend. So I'll note that. I'm sorry I didn't see Commissioner Abeni.
Thank you, President Brandt. No, that's fine. I just wanted to first extend my appreciation to ABDO, to the members of the BET for having the patience to go back and look at the data, and also to the Park Board staff that worked hard to supply the more accurate data for this analysis, because I think it was worth seeing, and I think it's worth understanding the Park Board data. I like that we can see it visually separate, too, from the city spending, because it doesn't, I would say those lines aren't the same, right? They're not proportional. But it will help, I think, when we have our discussion, hopefully, about the Park Board's budget coming up. So thanks for taking the time to do it. Thanks, everybody, for their patience and hard work on this, because it's been going on for almost a year. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, President Brandt, members of the board. Does any other member have a question?
I guess I would just say that it would be perhaps worthwhile for one of us, or perhaps our staffer down the road, to look at this data to see how successfully the Park Board in particular, which sort of led the way in using social metrics to guide capital spending when it received an infusion of capital dollars, did at concentrating its funding, at least in the early years of your study, in the parks that had the greatest need for those facilities. And I'll let that sit, but maybe it's something we can think about when we do a work program. Commissioner Payne?
Thank you, President Brandt. I'm not entirely sure you'd even be the correct person to answer this, but in looking at the data, I mean, obviously this Ward 7 number is pretty staggering by comparison to the others, so it makes me think there must be some notable, because I know we have the Public Service Center, which I'm not sure if that's Ward 7 or 3, technically. But the convention centers in Ward 7, I could envision a number of projects that would just support the convention center, and they would show up as a large count, but we also have a large absolute number too. So I was just wondering, from your read of the data, were there any like major projects that stood out to you that would be kind of an explanation for that? Or if you don't know the answer, don't put yourself out there. You know.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Payne. So I don't have an exact answer for you, but I did know that there were a lot of projects completed with the convention center that could really elevate that number of projects. I don't know about the actual allocated funds perspective. Another thing to consider when looking at the amount of projects, anything that was split by award had to be divided up as well. So depending on where those projects are taking place, are they taking place close to a ward boundary, that could impact kind of the project count swaying one way or the other. But either way, we're going to have different projects that are completed all around the city that are going to be within kind of those ward boundaries. So I would say kind of those adjustments are going to be pretty consistent across the board either way, but just something to consider when you're looking at the overall amount of projects as well.
Thank you.
And perhaps I should also have asked, when you have a major project like, say, the new administration building downtown, kitty corner from City Hall, did you allocate all of the project to the year in which it was begun or finished, or did you allocate it over years according to the city's capital program?
It was allocated based upon the year put into service.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions, I thank you for being here before us today, and I will request that the clerk receive and file your report, and I will call Finance Officer Wiseman back to receive questions.
Thank you.
On the Park Board presentation. Thank you for being patient during our interruption.
All right, President Brandt and board members, I am ready to entertain questions.
Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. I don't know that I expect you to have these numbers like readily available, but I'm just curious if the Park Board is tracking these numbers in terms of the utilization of the free or reduced youth programming. I'd really, hearing about that potential impact on youth programming really stands out to me. It would be nice to know, and I think baselines are going to also be really hard as well, because I believe this happened post-pandemic. So there's just like a lot of multivariate factors that would be involved here. But it would be nice to get a sense of, before there was a free and reduced program, what was the utilization of the youth programming, and then what was it after, just so that we could at least get a sense, especially as we're looking at the potential to expand.
Commissioner Benny.
Thank you, President Brandt. Along the lines of the 17 sites is generally called free youth programming, but it's available for people that are able to sign up in those locations from across the city. But the other additional, the citywide programming, what would that do? That's in the budget request right now.
Yep.
Sorry.
President Brandt and Commissioner Benning. So the expansion to citywide accomplishes a couple of things. We have multiple ways that youth access our park programs. We have scholarships, we have fee waivers, and we have the free programming sites. And we are trying to make this easier for parents to navigate and to hopefully increase participation by having one needs-based, free and reduced cost programming, youth programming citywide. And so all sites would have a fee, but depending on the criteria, there would be a discount that would be applied to that fee based on income needs.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. And that's important to me because there are some parts of my district, which is the southwest quadrant of the city, where the nearest rec center might be Bryant Square Park, but there's a distance to travel to get to that, and there are neighborhoods and people throughout my district that could benefit from this. That programming that you're referring to also does refer to the Rec Plus program in those locations, or the availability of access to the Rec Plus program. Is that right?
President Brandt and Commissioner Benning, currently we have 3 sites that are Rec Plus sites.
That's right.
We wouldn't necessarily expand to all Rec Plus sites. There's other funding sources, through Hennepin County and things that help fund youth in the after-school childcare programs.
Okay, that's helpful. And then, may I keep asking a couple more questions?
Absolutely.
President? Thank you. We have a limit at the park board. Okay. Also, in your presentation, there's a number that the park board sort of uses as a beginning reference point, and it's the 4.3%, and it showed up on a number of your slides. Could you describe where that number comes from?
I'll actually go back to the mayor's. Oops, that went too far. So if you see 2028, 2029, and 2030, historically, the park board has been projected to have a current service level increase annually of 4%. And that includes union contract settlements, wage adjustments, health insurance increases, the whole operations. So that's where we technically start from, and if we are requesting above that 4%, we describe and provide numbers based on how much farther we're going up besides the 4%.
So the number's a little bit arbitrary, sort of a forecast out that comes from the city budgeting process. It's not a number that the park board supplies. It's a number that sort of comes back to the park board. So it's a dart on a board kind of just to get going, but it's not a number based in reality at all. So, but with that, I also really want to point out to my colleagues, especially with this biennial budget, and to state on the record that the number that's on the table for 2026 from the mayor's recommended budget for the park board is just wholly inadequate in every way. What is that number up there?
2.6.
Yeah, so it's below even that 4 or 4.3% number that has been the kind of the roughed-in number, the starting point number. So I need that on the record because it's a biennial budget, and I would hope, and we're not going to be able to discuss that number. There's no, this body doesn't approve that number until a year from now, but I just really need it on the record that that number is not going to work. And then the last thing I wanted to just kind of elevate here is the discussion about, how the park board really is reliant on property taxes. It's about 80% of the budget. And the park board's been doing a lot over these many years with the support of the previous mayor, but also the current mayor. And that has to be said. And the current city council and the prior city councils to bring up the service levels of what the park programs are doing, both from the recreation side and also the maintenance side, as we've seen. And the park board's been taking those funds in and doing the good work that is in our mission to do. And I really support that. And so for us to lose ground, and the other thing is that what we're doing is responsible. You could see it in those ABDO numbers. We're putting the investment exactly where we said it's needed, and the data shows that it's needed. But we're also opening a couple of facilities, and they have to open with full staffing. We're going to have, Graco has been mentioned. We're going to have Upper Harbor Terminal. You're going to see North Commons coming online. We have to have the staffing, and we have to have the hours. We can't reduce the service in those facilities at all. I think it would be too detrimental to the progress we've all made and what our city really requires. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Commissioner Fry?
Thank you, Mr. President. I really appreciate the presentation. As we all know, these are incredibly tight budget times. There are a number of proposals, both from the Park Board, from many other departments throughout our city enterprise, that were both benevolent, were effective, and that I certainly wanted to fund. Given the budgetary circumstances, yes, it made it very hard. And it's not just the increase in the levy itself at presently 8.1%. I believe the Park Board is requesting about 8.65%. It's also in the shift of the burden and who's covering it. We are seeing a very significant increase based on what I'm reading today in the Star Tribune. St. Paul may be seeing a more significant increase. I want to note that the increases that we are seeing in Minneapolis and St. Paul are also not an anomaly. Suburban cities, we're seeing largely between a 10 and 20% increase at times. Again, this is the repercussion, or this is caused because service is now more expensive. Paying employees for the great jobs that they're doing is more expensive. Those employees themselves have greater expenses because inflation has gone up, and the cost of food and the cost of rent and everything else. And we are trying to manage all of that at the same time. And so I completely understand where the Park Board is coming from with their requests. Look, you all are doing your job. You're doing your job and making hard asks to us, and we have to do our jobs to make sure that we're using dollars as efficiently as possible, and also watching out for the city's bottom line. It's a hard balance to strike, and we understand that. A couple things that I would like to see and want to note. The graph that you had that I thought was very helpful, highlighting the increases that we are giving. And by the way, we are giving an increase this year. The increase is somewhere in the range of $2.3 million, so I don't want that to go unnoticed. We are giving a significant increase, and the Park Board is asking for a more significant increase. I don't think there's any dispute there. I just wanted to make sure that was on the record. The increases that you've shown here are since 2018. What would also be helpful, and this is more out of curiosity, and I don't even know where the graph would go, is years, say 2013 to 2017 or 2010 to 2017, just to kind of get an idea of the history of where things have gone, and if I could revise my ask, perhaps even before then, because the mortgage foreclosure and economic downturn of 2008, 2009, that was felt in 2010, 2011, 2012, just to see how prior both administrations, councils, park boards dealt with difficult fiscal times would be helpful, I think, certainly to me, I think probably to all of us. Regarding the concern that Commissioner Abene pointed out regarding 2026, I hear you and we'll work with you. I obviously can't give you a specific dollar figure here today or a percentage increase, but once we have a better idea of where contracts fall, once they are settled, we've stated, and I'll state publicly here, that we can continue the conversations. Obviously, with a supplemental budget year, you want to get as much locked in as possible. We recognize that not all of it is. And so, yes, we will have those conversations as we've got a clearer picture of what the financial picture itself is. And so I don't know that I've got any real questions, but I deeply appreciate both the presentation and I appreciate the partnership. Look, the work that we've done over the last several years is monumental. The work to increase youth recreation to the tune of, I think, $2.7 million annually has a huge impact on people in this city. The work that was done to provide the increase for infrastructure costs and capital improvements have been utilized to increase both the number of capital projects and the number of parks in the city. I agree with Commissioner Bene that when you look at the data and the wards that have seen perhaps the largest increase, some of that is reflected based on the wards that have seen the largest increase in population, like Ward 3. Some of it was done based on an equity analysis, I know, and Ward 5, I think, is a prime example there, which I believe was second in terms of the increase. Maybe it was Ward 7. I could be wrong. Ward 5 was up there. Word 4 or 5 were there. Okay. Well, regardless, the point being, you're the best park board in the country for a reason. We appreciate that work. And at the same time, it's tight. It's tight. We all find ourselves in a tough budgetary year, and we appreciate the partnership.
I have a couple questions. Obviously, our job here at the board is simply to set the levy. However, our decisions in that regard probably reflect some other decisions that are made in crafting a park board budget for 2025. And I'm wondering if you can elucidate for me what's been done on the side of fee income for various programs for which you charge, putting aside the question of free and reduced kids programming.
President Brandt and commissioners, over the past several years, as the investment in youth has been put forward, fee increases for all other types of programming and fees within our system have increased. And to help, partially to help fund the gap with the free programming, as well as some cuts that were made in previous budgets by previous boards before the youth investment became youth investment. We do benchmarking every year, and we ask all of our departments to look at their revenues and compare it to the market. Some of those markets are local, some of those markets are Chicago and other like park systems. And we make increases to our fees whenever possible to keep us, we have a premier location, so we charge premier fees to utilize our spaces.
I'm wondering if you can tell me in aggregate what happens to fee income between 24 and 25 in percentage terms.
President Brandt, for the fees?
Yes.
President Brandt, we currently are not recommending very many increases in the fees this year because, like I said, we have been increasing almost annually every year. So we have gone back to our departments to just double check and make sure. But the fees and charges between, the fees and charges between 24 and 2025 are projected to go down slightly. And that's for the expansion of the free programs to expand it citywide.
Thank you. The other question I had pertains to the coming online of Graco Park and of the Upper Harbor Terminal, both of which I think lie within the regional park. And I'm wondering whether there is any money available from metro sources that can help with staffing those parks.
President Brandt and Commissioners. That is a topic that is top of our legislative agenda every year. By state statute, the state should be paying approximately 40% of our regional park operating costs, and I believe it's 10%? Lower than 10%, 8%. And so we continually lobby. We, this year, in our meetings with the mayor and city staff, have asked for help and assistance from the lobbying team of the city to also help lobby for an increase in that support.
I'm quite familiar with the issue of inadequate funding at the regional park level, but I'm wondering, does the bringing online of those two parks over the next 2 years increase your share of the inadequate pie?
President Brandt and Commissioners, yes, it will. But it won't, so it will come online in 2025. We won't see an increase to O&M funding until 2026 because they do it annually and analyze the previous year.
Thank you. Mayor Fry, did you have anything? Okay.
Mr. President, only to state that we, yes, agree to help and would gladly help and partner on getting that additional funding.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file this report. And our next item is the mayor's 2025 recommended budget. Welcome to Finance Director, Budget Director Jane DeSenza.
Okay, good evening, President Brandt and Commissioners. Jane DeSenza, Budget Director of the Finance and Property Services Department. And as stated, I'm here today to give an overview of the Mayor's recommended 2025-2026 budget. So just to walk us through our agenda, we're going to talk through the budget book, a bit about the budget process and where we are in the timeline. We'll walk through some specifics about this budget, what is the overall context, the accomplishments and challenges we're seeing, and how that reflects in the city's spending and revenue changes. We'll get into, as part of the revenue discussion, a bit about the property taxes and the levy impact. And we'll walk through an example on the transparency portal of how people can use the budget document to learn more about their particular questions. So first of all, this is, again, the online interactive budget book format. It keeps getting better thanks to hard work on our team's part. You'll notice that the navigation's a lot easier this year. There's improved accessibility features, including translation options. So we hope that's helpful for the residents of Minneapolis. And again, it's connected to our financial transparency site, so people can interact with all of those bar charts and tables that they see in the book. We continue to refine the summary sections so that they're useful and try to get at the frequently asked questions we hear from all of the elected officials as well as media and occasionally the public. And we will PDF a version of the publication. We're working on that as we speak, so we hope to have that on LIMS probably end of next week. Like to have that option available for folks and also just for posterity. So just briefly, I wanted to summarize some of the key sections where you might look for information. I know this is probably review for many of you, but the budget summary section, including that budget in brief area, is a great place to start. It really summarizes all the key info. And then we often get questions about new spending in the budget, so the new spending by priority area summarizes all the new recommendations by priority. So if you're interested in knowing what is the mayor recommending for community safety spending in 2025, that would be a great place to start. Our financial policy section got retooled a little bit so that it's easier to read. It's all in one page. We are undergoing a year-long review process on our team and within the finance department and city attorney's office to check for government restructure edits and readability and making clear the objectives of all of those policies. The department pages are, of course, the detailed view, so you'll get a narrative about their core functions as well as any proposed new spending. And this is where I'd like to thank partnership with performance management and innovation, racial equity, inclusion, and belonging, and our team has really been great this past year, and we're hoping to continue that so that we can have stronger, more robust analyses in these sections. We've added some reporting on the department pages for staffing so that there's more transparency about any changes there as well. In the capital section, this body is familiar with the 6-year plan for the city and the park board's infrastructure. We've added more description there as well this year to make it a little bit more legible for the public. And of course, the financial schedules are that technical piece that the council votes on in December, summarizing our expenses, revenues, cash balance, staffing, HUD revenue, and the like. So I was last here in May to talk about our current service level budget, and we showed a timeline at that point. So I wanted to update that for you all to show where we are visually in the year. So in May, we explained the current service level process starts with the last year's adopted budget. And we reforecast our revenues and we revise our estimated costs for all of those programs and people that were determined to be ongoing commitments. So along the way, the budget team is doing a training for city departments. We're reviewing each department's personnel. We're removing one-time spending. We're checking to make sure base budgets, the non-personnel portion, is flat year to year. We're going through a process with the internal service providing departments to reforecast those expenses and revenues. And again, we're looking at the macro revenues for the city. What are sales taxes doing? What are we seeing in our other main revenue sources? And so all of that current service level work combines with the new budget proposal work happening over the summer. So the mayor's budget is really the culmination of all of that. So in August, the mayor presented the current service level plus all the new spending, and that is balanced with a revenue strategy to ensure that we have a balanced budget. So moving into some more specifics on this budget. This is our second turn with a biennial 2-year framework. And the objective here is really just improved long-range planning. So if a department knows that they want to add a position in 2026, they have a full year to write that job description, do the studies and the recruiting that they need to do, and have somebody ready to go January 1 of 2026. So we see that as a benefit and a nod towards the challenges of implementation, which is, really the difficult part of getting money out the door. Our sales tax revenues are continuing to improve. So we're projecting 3.5% gross growth in those local sales taxes. You'll all recall that revenue took a real dive in the height of the pandemic. So we went from 92 million down to 51. In 2023, we had a great year and we hit 100 million there. So we're continuing to forecast some growth in that area. This year, we launched a new process for considering enterprise-wide technology needs. So the technology improvement plan, which is meant to mirror our capital improvement plan. So it's a collaboration with finance as well as the IT department to develop a 6-year plan. So it's in its infancy. The council will be getting a separate presentation on that, and we're looking forward to continuing to build out that program. On the capital side, we were able to leverage our excellent bond rating to expand our capacity on the capital side. So even in a year that was more lean in terms of the operating budget, we were able to maintain those commitments to our paving projects and rebuilding roads and bridges, and also addressing the settlement agreement related capital requirements that have emerged. And then finally, I wanted to note that the budget team piloted a public engagement program. We had 5 events with small conversations with cultural and community groups. This was another great multi-departmental effort. So we worked closely with IT to build out some educational materials with NCR, and then the mayor and his team were really generous with their time in coming and taking questions from the public. So that's something we hope to continue in the future. So I think it's no surprise the story of this budget was that our expenses were growing faster than our revenues, and a lot of that boils down to the cost of personnel. So in order to be competitive in the market, to recruit and retain excellent staff to do the important work that we need to do, there's a cost to that, and this budget reflects that. And because we're a public entity, we're upfront about those cost increases. Similarly, the settlement agreement has some required outcomes, and those cost money, and they're things that we want to do, but we also have to pay for them. So there's capital and operating budget expenses related to the settlement agreement, and they include the personnel that's needed to carry out that work. We heard referenced earlier the declining property values and that burden shift that's associated with it. That's something the assessor has presented on in more detail. And it was a factor, of course, in our budget decision process, just keeping in mind the fact that the residents are going to be feeling more acutely this increase. I noted here modest growth in non-property tax revenues. So while we saw that the local sales tax is increasing, we also saw some decreases in other revenues, notably ones related to large-scale construction projects. So we do hope that will turn around with the 2040 court decision and that we'll see some more investment there, but it is not something that's evident in the data just yet. And then finally, we've long been planning for the end of ARPA funding. That is coming real in 2025, and so that is a revenue source that is going away. So in May, we talked about that gap between expenses and revenues, and this is something that we've seen throughout the country. Many cities, many peer cities, and school boards have had similar but perhaps larger scale gaps between their expenses and revenues. But we took this seriously, and it really impacted the decision-making process this summer. So I listed here some of the key strategies we use to reduce that gap. So you'll notice a lot of them are related to transfers. So I'll just talk through those. So first of all, we combed the existing budget to try and find all these transfers. How was money getting out of the general fund? And one key place that was happening was a transfer from the general fund to the capital program. And so given that great bond rating and our ability to use our existing debt capacity more to a greater extent, we reduced that cash transfer from general fund to capital, and we are instead leveraging the bonding side to accomplish more work. The second bullet there is a parking fund transfer. So previously we had a transfer from the parking fund to the downtown assets fund. We changed the direction of that transfer to support instead the general fund. The parking fund transfer had been a requirement in prior years. That requirement had expired, and the general fund, in this current context, needed the support more. We also increased the downtown assets fund transfer to the general fund. So we took a look at existing economic development activity in the city, and we increased that transfer by a substantial margin to really to cover all the economic development work that's proposed in this budget. The last two levers we'll get into in a little bit more detail in the next couple slides, but we increased the planned use of fund balance, so accumulated fund balance from prior years, as well as some uncommitted public safety aid. Yes?
Excuse me, I believe Commissioner Payne has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, President Brandt. I'm curious about our strategy with the Downtown Asset Fund. I'm, after some of our work on City Council, more familiar with it, and recognize that there's this blending of local option sales taxes. I'm seeing the parking fund was used to supplant the Downtown Asset Fund. And so we were blending kind of like very restricted funds with unrestricted funds, and I'm just curious, like clearly we're in a different financial footing right now relative to, right after a lockdown, and then relative to maybe the era where the Downtown Asset Fund was blending a lot of sources. And I just want us to, I think there's just like a lack of transparency to me around what the purpose of the downtown asset fund is, and then why we should be building that up versus why we should have all along had those unrestricted funds going to the general fund. And so are there any projects that were anticipated that, because like I think COVID really shifted a lot of our financial planning, and then the COVID stimulus dollars kind of shifted our financial planning all over again, and now we're kind of in a new normal. I don't know that our fund strategy makes sense for this new normal, and so I'm just curious if you have any insights of kind of like some of the goals of those previous eras, how they relate to our strategies now as it relates to the downtown asset fund.
Through the president, Commissioner Payne, I'll take a stab at that. I think there have been a number of different strategies around those local sales taxes and how they're deposited in the city's funds. It's not that long ago that entertainment tax flowed directly into the general fund. One thing that we would need to consider is whether that would amount to a decrease in general fund support if we were to take up that strategy again. I think the process for considering those expenses in the downtown asset fund does often happen a bit more behind the scenes. So we annually receive downtown assets finance plans from the entities that are within it. So the convention center is a notable one. We see what their sort of current service level expectations are. What do they need to spend in order to maintain operations? And then there's capital improvements are certainly what we talked about a lot this summer. And so all of those things are taken into account. The financial policies require us to support, those buildings which are within our downtown asset portfolio. So that's the requirement. And then economic development is also laid out as a specific requirement. So just to give you to say out loud the scale of the increase that we propose. So prior to COVID, we had about a $32 million transfer from downtown assets into the general fund. We had planned to increase back to that sort of pre-pandemic normal in 25. Instead, we are going up to $43.7 million. So it's an increase that's meant to cover the cost of all that economic development work that you're seeing in the budget book as well.
Yeah, I think what we need to do, and I don't know if that's I don't think this is the body, actually. I think it is City Council is the body, but, for some of these major capital improvements, I see the wisdom in setting aside money in the downtown asset fund so that when you do want to make one of those meaningful investments for economic development purposes, you're not relying on debt, right? Like having that downtown asset fund really takes some pressure off of debt financing for capital improvement projects. I just think that for the voters, they should know we're planning on a new stadium. We're planning on expanding the Target Center, renovating the Target Center, or renovating the convention center, expanding the convention center. All those major improvements should have political will behind them through the transparency of saying that's what the plan is. And right now, I feel like it's very obfuscated through how we blend local option sales taxes, the entertainment tax, the parking fund, having where that money flows is counter to transparency. And I think that if the city wants a brand new stadium to attract some new sports team or to retain a sports team, as an example, hypothetically, I don't think that's happening right now. But hypothetically, we should just say that out loud and let the voters say whether or not that's something that they support or don't support, rather than sit there accumulating money that's right now basically creating a higher levy pressure on us, which we actually this time around leveraged to reduce levy pressure. But I think the public should just have much more visibility into those strategic choices that we're making, and we should be able to make those choices with like pure confidence because we're saying what we're doing out loud and it's supported by the residents of Minneapolis, or we're saying what we're doing out loud and the residents of Minneapolis don't want a new stadium, don't want a convention center renovation, don't want whatever investment that we are planning for. I don't have a good sense of what investments we're planning for with the downtown asset fund right now, and I think we need to do a better job of bringing transparency to that.
Sure, I'll just note through the chair, Commissioner Payne, as it relates to specific plans for renovations, the Budget Committee will hear from the Convention Center. So I think questions like that are certainly appropriate in that venue.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll carry on. So I think the final lever that's listed here on closing the gap is an important one. It's the 8.1% increase to the property tax levy that's proposed for 2025. And then the final note on here is just to note that departments were asked to reallocate wherever possible their existing dollars. So as part of the budget formulation process, we asked them to take a look at those base budgets, move things around where they make sense. If your actuals and your budget are not aligned, we asked them to take a look at that and be honest and clear with themselves about where they're going to be spending their money. So that's part of the into the process. Okay, so the use of fund balance or the use of cash here, 14.2 million was in the plan from last year's budget, and so that is still here. The mayor's also recommended 4.5 million be used to temporarily relieve the levy. So this is pulled from the public safety aid that the city received last year. And this amount of money is currently housed in finance and property services. In last year's budget book, it is labeled PSA remainder. So this was the amount that was meant to come back before council for further consideration as new ideas emerged. I've listed here some one-time uses. So typically, the use of cash is tied to one-time expenditures. So elections is an example of something we revisit every year because the costs change based on the type of election we're running, whether it's presidential or gubernatorial or local. And then in an effort to make sure that we're planning sustainably in the long run, we have removed any use of fund balance in 2027 and beyond so that we can leave that option available for future policymakers, but we are not tying ourselves to that.
Excuse me, Ms. DeSenza, if I could interrupt. I wondered if you could compare that $14.2 million use of fund balance with recent years. I realize that it's skewed by ARPA, so let's say pre-ARPA. If you're, I realize that may be before your time, but.
President Brandt, I have been here since before ARPA.
Oh, okay.
But I think in last year's budget, I believe we had something close to $18.5 million in use of fund balance. So this is pretty consistent with, if you add up the 14.2 with the 4.5, it's a pretty consistent number.
I'm glad to hear that we're using it because I think that although it's not a good long-term strategy, I think it is a strategy for the times we're in.
Thank you. Okay. So we've already seen a little bit of this table before, and I know this body is familiar with it. So I will just note that this is the levy table. It includes 2024 as a reference. 2025 is in the orange box there. So you see the 8.1% total property tax increase in the bolded line with 9.8% increase above that projected for 2026. And so going down the different levy amounts, so we have the general fund at the top, of course, which is a 10.1% increase. That is going to increase in future years to account for inflation for staff. But again, the non-personnel amounts of our budget are held flat. The park board amount here shown is a 7% increase. So this was meant to cover wage increases and some security requests. The bond redemption line is how we're covering a lot of that capital budget, the debt service. Permanent improvement is the funding source for the technology improvement plan that we briefly touched on. So you'll see that that one shows a pretty substantial decrease, and that was done to get at the overall levy amount. Pensions and teachers' retirement are two levies that remain relatively static. These are the teachers' retirement is a legacy pension, which will eventually come off of our books, but not until later on. NBC has a proposed levy of just shy of 4.6 million, which is a reduction for them of 8.5%. The Board of Estimate and Taxation, of course, brought down your levy amount to $100,000. And then the MPHA, the new HRA, newly reinstated HRA levy, is held flat at $5 million across the years.
And excuse me, could you refresh my memory? It seems to me at some time in the 2030s that the TRA obligation is satisfied and we've made good our deal with the state.
President Brandt, I believe it's 2031, but I would not swear to it. I can certainly check and get back to you.
Thank you.
So on the spending side, this is a $1.88 billion budget in 2025, increasing to 1.9 in 2026. So that's just shy of 3% increase, 2.86% increase. And we're often asked about what's within that number, and of course, this being a year that's really focused on personnel costs, just wanted to confirm the Police Federation contract increase as well as the laborers contract increase is reflected in these numbers. We do know that there will be a number of labor contracts that are open and being negotiated next year, and so we work closely with our labor relations team to try and come up with some reasonable estimates for those increases. Once they're finalized, we'll build them into future budgets with the actuals. A little bit unique this year. In December of 2023, the mayor and the council had some negotiations on future commitments for the general fund, and so I have these summarized here. Instead of baking these into the current service level, we are showing them separately. So on each of the department pages, they're listed in a section called 2025-26 pre-commitments. And so the idea here was that OCS, the Office of Community Safety, the Police Department, and Performance Management and Innovation got some temporary bridge funds of public safety aid for staffers in the current year, giving them some leeway to hire, and then the idea is that the general fund would step in and replace those dollars in 2025. So this is something that we've had in mind since the conclusion of last year's budget, and have been planning for in 2025. So each of these departments can speak to those positions in more detail in their individual presentations to the Budget Committee, but we have the FTE numbers and the overall costs for 2025 shown on the slide.
Excuse me, Mr. Senza, Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm maybe too intimately familiar with the performance management and innovation component of this slide, but I was just curious, is there like and this is just kind of like putting all of my ignorance on the table here, is it pre-commitment an industry term? Is there some statutory requirements around pre-commitments, or is that just kind of again, I know all of the details on performance management and innovation. I'm not as familiar with the police and the OCS FTEs. Is this just kind of like it's a conversation and a like handshake commitment, or is that like a part of our like formal budgeting process?
President Brandt, Commissioner Payne. So these were conversations between the elected officials, and so I believe there were some public statements made at the time. Pre-commitments is not an industry term. Certainly debated putting that in the glossary or not, but we wanted to show this as a transparency moment, and also many of these positions are hired, and so they have people in them. And so that feels a little bit different and a little bit more high stakes.
Absolutely.
And so certainly would welcome more questions for those department heads about what it is these folks are doing, but many of these positions are filled and functioning.
Thank you.
Mayor Fry, Commissioner Fry.
To piggyback on what Mr. Senja just said, these are largely discussions that we had during the last budget session where one-time money was used to fund some position that under my recommended budget was ongoing, and therefore we now have to backfill the following budget to do the thing that we said that we were going to do.
Okay, and this slide provides a little bit more detail on changes in public safety aid that are recommended in this budget. So we've We've spoken about that one-time use of the $4.5 million as a use of cash to relieve the levy. There was also a recommended change that would go to support background checks for positions that require that elevated standard of background checks. So sworn personnel, 911, police conduct review staff, they have to undergo a more extensive background check. And the idea here is to use some of that public safety aid money to outsource some of that work, relieve sworn personnel from doing some of that. And it's done on a one-time basis, so we can see if that's an effective use of city dollars in the future. On the new spending side, certainly encourage folks to take a look at that new spending by priority section for a summary. There is $29.5 million in the 2025 budget across all funds. If you narrow down to the general fund, that's $19.3 million. There are some offsets that are built into this. So we've talked about the downtown assets transfer being an offset for that economic inclusion type work. We also have franchise fee revenue that's coming in to support climate legacy work. Public safety aid we've also discussed. So when you remove those things, it's about $12 million that's really impacting the general fund levy. And some of these new spending items, again, are existing work. So we've had this expansion of services under ARPA. We had to make some decisions about what ARPA programming would stay and what would go. There are also personnel that are currently being funded by the CPED Development Fund, and that's a dwindling fund, and so there's been a long-term effort to get those folks onto the general fund and get that body of work onto the general fund. And so this budget includes dollars to do so. There's $3 million in here for running elections in 2025, $1.3 million for compliance with settlement agreement, so additional spending for MPD and IT. And then $1 million for unsheltered homelessness response, with the idea being the city's response should more mirror the county's. I won't read this entire slide, but suffice to say there are some increases to the overall personnel count from 2024 into 2025, and you'll see that there are a few more positions slated to begin in the 2026 budget. So our personnel records don't include temporary positions or the capital positions. You can certainly see the growth in overall personnel cost. So in 2024, we were about $530 million. In 2025, it's close to $578 million. There's much more detail available on each of the department pages, as well as in the Schedule 5 of the budget book. On the revenue side, we're looking at $1.9 billion in revenue. That increases very slightly to $1.91 billion in 2026. So we've talked about a few of these revenue sources. One thing I'd like to note on this visual is the diminishing impact of CARES and ARPA dollars. So that orange box of intergovernmental revenues, going back to 2022, you can see CARES and ARPA tapering off. And so we've been planning for that. And now in the 25-26 budget, that intergovernmental line is largely our LGA. So to go through some of the revenue sources in a little bit more detail, we'll spend some time on the property tax levy. So as we've said, it's an 8.1% recommended increase in 2025, 9.8% in 26. So that increases the amount we're levying by about $36 million in 2025. A 0% increase in the levy due to market factors and valuations would still result in a $36 increase for the median single-family homesteaded residence. This recommended budget will increase that amount to about $207. We have linked here, and I'll show an example on the next slide, the city assessor's impact estimator tool. This is a really useful way of visualizing the impact of the levy. You can switch your different property categories. You can look at individual wards and see an estimate of what that impact is likely to be for people in different parts of the city. And And this is a visualization we've used for several years to sort of show the distribution of funds across city and parks services, as well as the MPHA. So where's this money going that I'm sending into the city? So the general government service line is a pretty broad category, so it would include the mayor's office, the legislative department, finance, many other city departments. And that's a big category of spending. And below it, you'll see police, parks, capital and debt service, followed by fire. So under the recommended levy, we're looking at about $2,098 for that median single-family home next year. On the sales taxes side, we did touch on this a bit as well, but we know that this has been a really great year for downtown. The city saw a 45% increase in downtown economic activity last year. We had a record hotel room revenues. The Timberwolves helped with that. The gymnastics trial, Taste of Minnesota, Pride, all of these events served to bolster our sales tax revenue. So again, we're projecting that 3.5% increase in gross revenues for this category. Moving on to LGA, so local government aid from the state is an important source for the city. Its uses are unrestricted, so it's flowing into our general fund. We do share our LGA award with the parks as well as the MBC. So you can see the total amount in blue, and then the city portion of that is in orange. So one thing to note here is that our 2024 amount was $71.7 million, and we're just going up slightly in 25 and 26, $71.73. There were a couple new revenue sources that came online in the last year. So the state authorized a metro area sales tax, which is the local affordable housing aid. We just got our first payment for that. We'll receive 2 payments annually. So we're forecasting about $6 million in revenue for 2025 and ongoing for that source. And CPED will be detailing more how those dollars will be going to support affordable housing in the city. We have set those aside in the special revenue funds. They're not in the general fund. That's to improve our tracking and reporting capacity. Franchise fees were raised last year for the Climate Legacy Initiative. Franchise fees are really dependent on consumer activity. And so we'll continue to revisit those every year to see how they're coming in. The mayor's recommended budget still includes $10 million in spending to continue that Climate Legacy Initiative commitment from the prior year. And then finally, and related to the Climate Legacy Initiative, we have the city is pursuing tax credits wherever possible for IRA eligible projects. So we have submitted for a tax credit related to electric vehicles that have come online. We have not baked in that kind of revenue for our forecasting because it's a little bit unpredictable just yet, but we're continuing to chase those dollars wherever we can. And then briefly, President Brandt had asked to include a little example of how we navigate the budget book and connect it to transparency. So all of the tables and graphs in the budget book are linked to our transparency site. And if you hover over them with your mouse, you'll see click through to see more. And it'll take you to a page that has a filter, much like what you're seeing on the screen here. So you can select expenses or revenues. You can choose to look at a specific department. You can look at a program within that department, and you could even select an expense type. So there's a lot of filtering that's available, and one of the examples that we often work through is what's the MPD's overtime budget? How's that changing? And so you might get there by going to the police department's budget page, clicking on their expense budget, and it'll take you to transparency. And from there, you can use the filters to select expenses, to show the police department, and then within the expense type, you can actually just select or type in overtime, and it'll show you a visual like this one. And from there, you can easily share your findings with your friends and neighbors, so you can copy and paste the URL. You could also download it as an image or as a spreadsheet if you wanted to do your own graphics with that. And of course, very briefly, the BET will be voting on this maximum property tax levy shortly, as you all know, and then the work will turn over to the Budget Committee to facilitate a markup process with other council members. The budget team continues to be a resource for council members and electeds throughout this process. And then we'll wrap up December 10th. So I will conclude there and stand for any further questions.
Commissioner Benny.
Thank you, President Brandt. Thank you for that presentation. It was very helpful. So I think if you could just maybe navigate to a couple of different slides. The LGA slide, just a brief comment that the mayor had mentioned that as well before, that through some of the discussions with the mayor's office, the park board and the city lobbyists are going to join forces and try to do something a little bit more here. Because you can see, although obviously it went up from 23 to 24, it had dipped for reasons, I'm sure, but that it's a fairly flat number. And that's an opportunity, I think, because the park board will get, I think it's 11.7% of the total amount. So it's an opportunity to kind of ameliorate some of the impacts of the levy. That's one slide. Another slide was slide 15. I wanted to just make one comment. I kind of wanted to comment on that, but we won't. 15, yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
So it was the essentially the one-time funding, which were sort of related to your pre-commitments concept, right? That something that had been sort of developed with one-time funding, but now needed to become permanent in the budget, right?
The President Brand, Commissioner Benet, the 4.2 million, that bullet point.
Yep.
Yes. So public safety aid was sustaining these positions on a one-time basis.
Yep.
There's folks in them. They're moving over. It won't feel like an increase to the body of work, but it is an increase to the
levy.
To the levy. Yeah.
Okay, and so I just want to point out that that is a gap that the park board continues to face. We have that 2-year gap for the similar type of one-time monies for the youth programming, and it's already been staffed. It's already underway, and we're already doing the work. So that's one of the things that's in our request right now to bridge the gap until 27. Then the next would be slide 9, or page 9. This one, yeah. So, okay, so this had to do with the first bullet there. So, I'm sorry, what's the name of the man that does the presentation on the bond sale to us, sale of bonds?
Mr. Hoppy?
Yes. I just wanted to point this out. I think this is commendable, that the city can do this. This is about responsible management of the way the city approaches city bonding. In his last presentation to us, I believe, he showed the comparables to other cities, and some are so top-heavy in that category. It's unsustainable. So this is a nice, the city is doing well here to be able to flex and do this, and again, relieve that levy, but continue on with the investment that we need to make in our city on our capital work and things like that, which also shows in our city. You can see where the investments are being made, and it's a good thing. And then, I'm sorry, one more, and it's the levy table itself. And I don't think it had a page number, yes, and it's really hard for me to see from here. But I think it's important to know, I'm going to get a little bit mathy here with people if that's okay. But you can see the city's general fund number is at 10.1%, I believe it says. I feel like I'm at the eye doctor here, okay? But that the park board is at the 7% or 7.01, and that the city ends up with the total property tax at the 8.1%. So what's happening there, the park board really needs 10%, but the park board is being lowered in order to lower the overall city's tax. Do you see that? So if you're looking at a weighted calculation, the park board is being one of the parts of the overall city budget that's being used to lower the city's number. The city's general fund number is not. Okay, I think that's important. And then I think it's also important to see what happened in 2024. Look what we ended up with was a 5.6, I believe is what that number says. Again, I can't quite read it from here. And that the city's was at 9.7. So again, the park board's been exercising, I think, some fiscal responsibility, and I just really want to point that out. And then again, just to make this one more comment, I know it was in the prior presentation, but what we had in our budget request for 25 was modest. It just is a larger dollar amount because of our reliance on the property tax. Thank you for letting me say those things.
Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, President Brandt. I have to return back to the Downtown Asset Fund because I'm realizing the thing that I said was basically just describing a capital plan, and I have to imagine there's a Downtown Asset Fund capital plan. Is that a correct assumption?
President Brandt, Commissioner Payne, yes, the finance plan broadly will include things like the capital, minor renovations, things of that nature will be listed as an expense for future years. They plan out.
And is that singularly managed by the director of the convention center, or does it go through a similar process as CLIC?
President Brandt, Commissioner Payne, so there are a few mechanisms. Certainly, convention center is very involved because that's the biggest part of downtown assets. There's a committee that I believe has the CFO, the head of CPAD, the COO representing to cover management around downtown assets. There's that. But also, I would say the budget team is pretty involved in vetting the numbers, and much like we do with any of the internal service providing departments, we take a look at what we receive from on the downtown assets finance plan or on the fleet financial plan, and we say, is this a reasonable assumption? Where would we like to push back? Does this seem like a current service level expense? And so those conversations are happening in the formulation of the budget.
So to contrast the downtown asset fund, is it accurate to say that CLIC, which is a very kind of participatory budgeting concept, that we do participatory budgeting for our standard capital plan for our downtown asset fund? We don't have elected or resident participation in that process. It sounds like it's a committee of professional staff. I mean, obviously operating underneath the mayor, the elected, but as members of that committee, that's strictly professional staff. There's not community members or other electeds associated with that committee. Is that correct?
President Brandt, Commissioner Payne, yes, that's correct. I think it is a little different to consider the so what CLIC is doing is hugely important in ranking. Their charge is ranking the projects, right? And they do go a step further in doing some really great analysis and doing some vetting with all the departments. I think the specific building operation needs of a convention center or a target center are a little bit of a different discussion, in my opinion. That would be a little bit less conducive to a participatory process, but I think it is fair to say that is work that's handled on the professional level.
And is that published in a central location? I feel like I was trying to dig through the budget book and I just wasn't finding a capital plan associated with that.
President Brandt, Commissioner Payne, I believe a lot of those fund plans are housed in those quarterly financial reports that the controller puts out, and so I would direct you there first, and then if there's more information, certainly happy to field further questions.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say a few words. First of all, I'd like to say I think there are some very good things in this budget. I'm very pleased that the mayor increased the amount that's coming out of the Downtown Assets Fund substantially to help support the general fund. Also, I think the department's presented about $60 million in new spending requests, and that was cut in half. And that's very good as well. And the amount that falls onto the general fund levy is much less than that. Things like city elections we obviously have to do, although I'm a little unclear why we don't figure out an average cost over a 4-year cycle and put money aside each year rather than going up and down according to how many, what's on the ballot. But in any event, and then of course we have the police consent decree costs. The cost of bad policing is the gift that keeps on giving in terms of the Minneapolis budget. Let's hope that on top of the settlements that have been paid and the various other costs that we are now getting past that point where bad policing is going to cost the city as much as it has in the past. And I don't think we have a spending problem in general when you look at a 2.86% increase in overall revenues. The mayor, what we have, I think, is a problem with tax base shrinkage, and it's certainly a set of unusual factors that have combined to give us this problem. We have a 3% shrinkage in the estimated market value of city property and a $5.7 million decrease in the taxable value of the city's property. And when you put a 8% increase on top of that, that's where the headaches come. And I've seen 8% increases in property taxes year after year after year in the early 2000s under Mayor Ryback. But the difference is that he had a growing tax base, and we don't have that luxury right now. And so I commend the mayor for the hard work that went into this budget. But the end result is that the median house is going to see a tax increase of almost 11%. And even with the smaller houses, the 25 percentile houses, it's 10.5% before credit. And we're going to have 17,000 homeowners in the city seeing a tax increase of more than 15%. And in the fourth ward, the median increase will be 15.6%. So that's a lot of pain. It's very hard for me to get enthusiastic about voting for that levy when households are already battered by inflation. I wish we had gone a little further in parsing the nice-to-haves versus the must-haves in the budget. For example, a couple things that jumped out at me, and I don't get to vote on spending, I just get to vote on the levy, is the $1.4 million to subsidize the Vibrant Storefronts program. I don't know when that became a city responsibility, or another roughly the same amount to prop up the Kohl Center in the wake of what's happened there. And those things aren't necessarily being funded by the property levy, but they're being funded by things that could be used to reduce the property levy if the money wasn't spent in that fashion. And it leads me to, sort of ask myself, what do I tell somebody whose tax burden is going to go up 15%? And we're sort of in the same old formula. The property tax is the gap filler. It's the budget balancer of last resort. And there are opportunities out there for other sources. And I've talked to the mayor about those, and I believe that the council president is somewhat favorably disposed toward looking at some of these possibilities. Obviously, many of them require legislative concurrence, and that's not an easy lift. But there's a possibility of a city income tax, particularly on high earner households, payroll tax, a wealth tax. That might be administratively difficult. An increase in the local sales taxes, or an expansion of the downtown taxing area for some of the downtown-specific ones. If the map that's in the budget is accurate, a good share of the North Loop that should be generating revenues for some of those things is not included in the area. And I'd like to see it go south all the way to 94 consistently and into Cedar Riverside. And I'm glad to hear that the Park Board and the City Council are joining forces on LGA because certainly that has not functioned for this city in a property tax reducing way as it was originally conceived many decades ago. I'd be more willing to support this levy if there were concrete, substantial, and genuine commitments on the part of the mayor and the council president or the council leadership to explore these options and take the most promising ones to the legislature. I'd like to see a study commission. I'd like to see, it could be internal, it could be external. I think we could pull in some good people and help us sort through these things. But otherwise, unless there's a willingness to cut the levy, amend the mayor's levy proposal, I find that I need to vote against it because of the impact it will have on folks. Again, finding other sources of revenue or undertaking the heavy lifting that's necessary to identify the best sources and go after them, to me, is the way out of this mess. And again, I commend you for the hard work you've done with this budget. Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. The vast majority of what you said, especially during the early stages of your comments, I agree with full-heartedly. A few pieces just to provide some clarification. You mentioned vibrant storefronts. I believe that was one-time funding. You mentioned the Kohl's Center. That stems from an obligation that the city has to provide a guarantee. Also, that comes out of the Downtown Assets Fund. And so at some level, and I think we can all agree on this, when money is spent, whether it's one-time dollars or it's ongoing funding, there is an end ultimate impact to the levy. That is absolutely correct. And whether it's this year or next year down the line, money is money. And so I think we can all agree on that. There is, in the immediacy, however, there's not a direct impact for purposes of this levy, just to distinguish between the two. You mentioned the willingness to look at other sources of funding. Not only can you count me in, it's something that I've been suggesting. I do think that we should look for other sources. You mentioned LGA. There was a chart showing the local government aid increases and/or decreases since 2018. Importantly, we should look back to the 2000s when there was a massive decrease of LGA, and we still haven't recovered since then. If we just accounted for the inflationary increases that we would have seen from that level and didn't get any increases beyond it, a whole lot of our budgetary problems would be addressed. And so there is an easy formula, which is restoring some of the LGA cuts that were made 20 years ago. I don't have all the data in front of me, but certainly this has been provided to me by a number of historians and probably yourself as you were reporting on it at the time. You mentioned North Loop and expansion of the downtown tax district to include it. We agree. This was an item on our legislative agenda docket last year. Did not quite make it through the session. Given the tremendous amount of success that North Loop is having, given that it is, in my mind, a portion of downtown, albeit, yes, a different neighborhood. We've got many neighborhoods throughout downtown, and North Loop, I believe, is one of them. And so, to the extent we're looking for additional revenue streams, yes, and yes. I agree full-heartedly. I don't want to speak for Council Vice President and Council President, but I believe they're on the same page as well. This is one part of the two-step equation that we need to address in order to get the budget where we want. It's increasing funding. It's looking at where we can make cuts and efficiencies. And I can tell you, we're doing an evaluation of vacancies that come forward as well, just to make sure we're looking for every last possible dime and we're finding efficiencies wherever they exist. Again, the vast majority of what you said, I agree with you, especially the portion where you mentioned the great work done by Jane DeSenza and our budget team.
Commissioner Payne. Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Dukdai.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couldn't agree with the mayor more in his comments in reaction to what you laid out. I'll start with saying I think it's really fair to scrutinize the city's almost $9 billion budget. You should be doing that. So should all Minneapolis residents. And I want you to know that the council takes the responsibility of reviewing, amending, and finalizing the budget incredibly seriously. And it's work we're really excited to be doing in partnership with our communities and with other electeds that represent different levels of government, including yourself, as we look at the next several months ahead prior to adopting the budget in early December. Speaking specifically to the city's, the council's commitment or council mayor commitment to exploring other sources of revenue, especially those that require legislative action, I think it's one that we are incredibly committed to. It was last year that we spent extensive resources and elected and appointed officials' time at the Capitol trying to expand that downtown taxing boundary, and ultimately we weren't successful, and it means that we're going to go back and we're going to try again and continue that work. In fact, as we are getting ready to as our intergovernmental relations committee and staff and the elected leaders are working on preparing the city's legislative agenda and platform, and especially thinking about the highest level of priorities that the city has, all things related to reducing the burden of the levy. I think pretty unanimously are at the top of the list, and are a shared priority among city leaders at all of the different levels that I named. I would also just, quickly speak in defense of the $1.4 million for the vibrant storefronts, and here's why. This year, that one-time allocation also includes an expansion of the Vibrant Storefronts initiative into Uptown. And that matters a lot because Uptown is affected pretty severely by massive reconstruction, commercial vacancies that exist at a higher rate than commercial vacancies in other parts of our city. And as a result, earlier this year, we received a presentation for sure in the budget committee, and then I believe one also by the assessing department here at the BET, where our staff was talking about the impact of commercial property devaluation, and certainly there's a lot of emphasis that's placed on the devaluation of downtown commercial industrial property, and that's important. But that impact is felt in Uptown too. And as we are trying to, turn a corner in Uptown, and we're making these significant investments, like a $30 million road reconstruction project, getting to being able to experience the benefit of that type of generational investment in the Uptown community means making investments like the expansion of vibrant storefronts into Uptown, so that businesses can survive, so that corridor can survive and make it through some of these tougher years, and so that valuation of property, commercial property in Uptown can rebound to. The last thing I would add, this is something actually that Council President Payne made me aware of, and I'm sure he'll speak to it in his comments, but the Minnesota legislature had this local taxes advisory task force last year, and they had a pretty extensive report in which they're talking about recommendations on how to what the future of local taxes looks like, and impact on levy, sales taxes, all of these types of things, and I think there's some really excellent information we can look to here as we're thinking about the future, and different types of tools we can use to reduce the impact of property taxes in our city, both for homeowners and for renters that also contribute to paying those property taxes 100% when we pay our rent. So I believe that's everything I've gotten. Happy to continue to engage with you in these conversations, as I'm sure the council president and the mayor are as well.
Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, President Brandt. It's no surprise in the media that there's always this display of city council and the mayor fighting, but on this topic, I think we're going to be locked arms at the state capitol. We're both very interested in really advocating for the city when it comes to revenue. I have a very, very, very strong belief that COVID has restructured society completely, and nothing about our tax policy reflects that. So whether we're talking about a reformulation of the LGA formula to reflect hybrid work, or we're talking about a land value tax, or expanding the entertainment tax boundaries, I think we have to have an all of the above look at that. And I'm also very committed to working with the mayor when it comes to looking at opportunities for efficiencies. We did just have a big report on vacancies, and this one's a little tricky because there's a lot of data associated with this. So we will see, if you go onto our LIMS file around that vacancy report, you'll see there's a vacancy that has been on the books for 111 months. There hasn't been a job opening for 111 months. It's just a data error in that instance. So there's going to have to be some cleanup there, but I think there's some real opportunities. I think the question for this body is, do we want to have the flexibility to look at those opportunities, or do we want to force those decisions? And are we going to be forcing those decisions in a way that potentially disadvantages some of the issues that Commissioner Chugtai is sharing around Uptown? I also think that we need to be a little bit more expansive in our thinking about our use of tools like bonding or use of tools like TIF. So as we talk about the vibrant storefronts, I mean, in theory, what we should be doing is having, all of these commercial spaces filled and super rockin', and that should translate into increasing our tax base through that economic activity. Is a TIF district an appropriate tool to accomplish that versus general fund or versus the downtown asset fund? So I think we need to have a kind of all-inclusive, every tool on the table conversation, both when it comes to making harder choices around wants versus needs, and about that longer-term sustainability as it relates to funding the government.
Thank you. I guess what I would say in closing on this topic is that I would urge the council to maybe step back from its legislative program somewhat and be more systematic in its review of potential revenue sources. We've got a lot of talent in this town. We've got a Federal Reserve sitting a few blocks from here, and we've got economists who can help us sort through some of those potential taxes, potential revenue raisers, and their impact. And there are 10 states now that have a local income tax option, for example. And so there's some experience out there with what happens to your high earners if you tax them. Do they stay or do they go? And so those are important questions to sort through. Same thing with a payroll tax. Do your companies stay or do they go? So there are pretty significant questions to sort through, and I would urge you to bring in outside expertise. And I'm not an outside expert, but I'd be happy to serve if there's any role I can play certainly outside of my role as Board of Estimate and Taxation Chair, but certainly would love to be involved. So with that, the clerk will receive and file this report, and thank you, Ms. DeSenza. There's one additional announcement on we did announcements earlier, but I did want to mention that I checked at the agenda setting with Alan Hoppy, our Director of Banking and Investments and Debt, and he tells me that because of a snafu in getting a bond rating from one of the rating agencies, that they haven't been able to schedule the sale that we authorized at the last meeting. But with luck, maybe you'll be able to tell us that, not at our next meeting a week from today, but the meeting after that. So thank you, everybody, and with that, the meeting's adjourned.